Thank you very much, Dr. Kamat, for a very good, I think, update on the changes that the DRDO is bringing about. And you did emphasize, re-emphasize, this business of fail fast, learn from it. So actually, fail is also being used sometimes as an acronym for first attempt in learning. So it might work, if you look at it from that point of view. And so to initiate this Q&A now, if I may initiated with a question for the chief and the chairman DRDO while the audience gets ready with their questions. The chief had highlighted that one of the points now which is being emphasized is Jai Hind Jai, standing for jointness, Atmanirbharta and innovation. And I think we need to step back for a while and look at jointness. Less than 2 months back, we had a similar tri-services technology event in Mau where we saw some divergence in the jointness bit. I thought it may be a good idea to get the Army Chief's view, because we did not have the Army Chief's view there on jointness. So over to you, sir.
As far as the J acronym is concerned, jointness, when Prime Minister spoke to us, it was jointness in all fields. It means jointness in terms of having our operational compatibility and synergization with the CAPFs also. With the so many other government agencies which are there, like I gave you the example of Maiti, I gave you the example of other agencies. Today, for example, in border area, when we are looking at so many clearances coming to us from the Green Tribunal, it's coming because we are collaborating with those kind of agencies. Now, the question specific is basically with respect to joint tests in terms of theaterization. As far as land warfare is concerned, what we have to understand that it is not only the three services which have to kind of join hands together. In terms of land warfare, it is the CAPF, it is all the int agencies and agencies like NTRO, ISROs, all the logistic agencies in terms of civil aviation, railways, all the locals who are there in terms of police, civil defense, NCC, the rare area security, CRPF. So if you name a thing, even to that extent, and even the canal management system which is there, that is also required to be kind of a join hands together. So this is the kind of a jointness we are looking at. So what is the future? Is the convergence going to be there? The answer is yes. As far as the time, the structure, that is something which is always remains a kind of a point of discussion. And since that is in the confidential domain, I can't talk about it, but I assure you convergence will take place today or tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. Now, my question to Chairman DRDO very quickly. Whatever, like you also mentioned in passing, whatever is happening in the defense R&D domain, it has to happen in the broader context of what we understand, and the chief referred to it, of military civil integration. So if it has to happen in that context, when we talk about military civil integration, there is a component of spin-off where the defense technologies are being commercialized to good use, economic, individually or collected, or there is a spin-on where the industry or the academia and others get attracted to come towards defense. A lot of effort to get the spin-on part. But the spin-off, while there is a little bit of spin-off happening, it is not to that extent. So I won't say that they can ever be equal, but there has to be an equation to make it sustainable. So your thoughts, please.
Hello.
I fully agree with you. It's not that spin-offs are not happening, they are happening. And one example I would like to give is the water mist system, which DRDO had developed for taking care of fires in a submarine. That same system was modified to suit our public transportation buses. If you remember, there was a time when a lot of buses were catching fire. So the same water mist system was converted to fit into a bus to prevent fires. This is just one example. Now, the problem that we have is DRDO, we have, say, 7,000 scientists. They don't have the bandwidth to look at the civilian applications of our military technology. This is where our companies have to take the lead. Once the technology is available to them, they have to see where all it can be used. The bandwidth in DRDO is not sufficient for the scientists to address the military needs as well as the civilian needs. Because the main mandate of DRDO is to work for civil military technologies. So my hope is that the industry, as it matures and invests in R&D, this spin-off will also increase. But it has to happen because the economic benefits of all the expenditure that you have done for your military has to be in your rest of your economy too.
Thank you very much. I think, okay. So it's the house is open, number of hands going up. We have to start with the DG, please. But we'll take a bundle of questions and then.
Thank you, Chair. I have two questions for each of the two eminent speakers. The first is to Dr. Kamat. You seem to suggest in your presentation that DCPP 2.0, where you will bring in more than one partner, you're not going to distinguish between the public and the private sector. But there is a certain amount of criticism from the private sector that in any case, when DRDO says you don't make a distinction, the odds are already stacked against them, because the public sector comes in with a great deal more of subsidy, government backing. They don't have to make the same kind of outlays and expenditures on developing certain types of technologies or R&D. So how would you deal with that argument? My second question, I'll address it straight away to General Dwivedi. General, you spoke of the 5 types of warfare. They're expected to continue. It seems to suggest that that spectrum still includes some of the traditional war fighting that we have done in the past, the world has seen in the past, and that includes the HR part, ground level terrain being very important. So how do you reconcile the induction of new age technologies with the apparent decision to phase out some very important things like GS mules or mule artillery, your breeding stations at Hisar and Saharanpur have, I'm told, been greatly shrunk. The training depot at Hempur will also see some withering away on the vine, so to speak. Where will you then in the future get the Poitus and the Hanoverians and the Norikers, and once lost, that particular DNA will not be available to you? Do you think your robo mules in the trench will perform the same way as a good GS or MA mule would doing supplies for, say, 28 div with a broad frontage and hundreds and thousands of, tons of equipment having to be moved for provisioning?
What we are looking at, mule is a mule. It has to provide a service, whether it's a robo mule or a GS mule. And I remember General posted here also. He sent me a beautiful link where he talked about a photo where a GS mule is carrying the ammunition, because the ATVs and RTVs, you have to carry 2-3 people and they become a lucrative target vis-a-vis a GS mule. So at times when the technology is having a ratcheting effect, going back to the Stone Age is also nothing wrong in it. And I remember once upon a time that people said if you have networking and you or somebody is able to counter. So somebody was feeling happy we don't have network system, so that's why we are better off. So what it means, and even I must say that during this Triple C address, the Prime Minister also told us that you all should be able to work in spite of, or if I can say that, even in absence of technological enablers. So is the GS mule going to stay? It's a triangle which I am looking at as of today. The triangle comprises of the mule, comprises of the modern vehicles, and the terrain, which is kind of acceptable to the modern mule, what we are talking about, the robo mule or the ATVs. Today, this triangle, if you look into it, the infrastructure development is taking its time. And whenever you want the kind of a modern means to reach there, those modern means have to be sustained in those kind of a terrains. So till then, there will be an issue, and these mules are going to stay here. The second issue, what we have to understand, in lot many places, our defenses are in depth. So as the infrastructure goes up, what happens? These defenses also creep up. When they creep up, the initially it is a GS mule which goes, and the mechanical means go at the later stage. So in the near future, what we are looking at till 2037, these mules will remain, the number will go down. Therefore, based on the number, the establishments will have its pluses and minuses, and if I can say that optimization will take place. However, keeping in view that we need good horses and good mules for the reasons other also, we are investing in that. We are even importing the kind of a cement to make sure that the class of mules which we are going to have in future will be much better off. Thank you.
Our data does not suggest what you are saying. If you look at our data in the last 3 years, more private sector companies are our DCPP partners than public sector. It was the case in the first 2-3 years of the DCPP, but now the data has changed completely. And we have also proposed to the MOD, because this finally needs the approval of Honorable Raksha Mantri, that in the 2 DCPPs, we can have 1 PSU, 1 private sector. If that approval is given by Honorable Raksha Mantri, we will adopt that model. But today also, even under these rules, we are getting more private sector than public sector.
Okay, we'll now open it to the House. If you can just keep your question, no requirement of any background. Yes, please.
Kanant. I was heading the Aerospace System Division in MOD till recently, and I'm presently doing international business management before I had my uniform. My question is to Dr. Kamat. There was a talk of the Defense Technology Council being, put up under the Honorable Prime Minister. So is this seeing the light of the day? And secondly, in your talk, you had talked of 15 centers of excellence. And the various seminars, I have seen the figures being flashed up to say 3,600 crores being spent on it. As a military man, I was taught as a young officer that, we should have concentration of resources. So don't you think that as for deep tech in India is concerned, we are frittering away resources. We need to go in a very focused manner. I know the funds are going to various IITs across the board since I've been to a lot of them. So don't you think that we need to just be very focused on? Thank you.
Next, please. Yeah, Anurag.
Morning, sir. I'm Anurag Avasthi. My questions to Dr. Kamat. 2 questions, very clear, sir. One is there's a common perception of the cost overruns in the DRDO. What are you doing about it as part of the DRDO reforms? That's one. The second part is you spoke about the TDA for the Technology Development Fund, which looks at around 50 crores, 90% and 10% and all of that, sir. Can we look at this fund augmenting the semiconductor design space as an addition to the DLI, sir, by the Government of India? If yes, and if possible, then how, sir? That's all, sir.
Next, the gentleman next to the camera, please. Okay, question understood. Next, please. Yes, please.
Sir, my question is to the chief. Sir, you just spoke about the jointness vision. So jointness means the joint execution of the task at the borders collectively. Sir, as per the need of the hour, Indian Army is enhancing its capabilities in all the domains. Sir, how do you assess today the capabilities of the CAPFs? And if there are certain gaps, how do we prepare to plug them in? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. One more. Yeah, Narang. Sorry, just a minute. We'll do some gender balancing. Yeah, that hand over there. Yes, please.
Mritika from Counter Trade and Offset. My question is that how do the Army and DRDO aim to leverage the Defense Procurement Manual 2025 in order to further the co-development and co-production, especially with regards to projects involving a transfer of technology? Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have questions from 5, and I would request Chairman DRDO, because most of them are actually to you, to take them on.
Yes.
If you wish, I can keep reminding you what
Yeah.
they are.
So let me start with the Defense Technology Council. I think somebody asked whether it is on or off. So it's still pending with the PMO. So final decision will be taken by the PMO. So I can't say yes or no because the final decision is with the PMO. Then you asked a question about cost over. Huh?
Cost overrun.
No,
Are there any tangible outcomes of 3,600 crores which have been spent?
So your figure of 3,600 crore is wrong. 500 crores a year with for all these DIA COEs. And we are coordinating with ANRF, DST, CSIR to ensure that same type of projects are not given. So it is not frittered away, I would say. It is being effectively used. With respect to DRDO projects cost overrun, if you look, we had just recently done a study of all our projects. Cost overruns are not really a problem. Hardly 10% of our projects have a cost overrun, and that too only 10% cost overrun. Our main challenge is the time overrun, not the cost overrun. So we got this examined by external experts as well as an internal committee, and they have given a set of recommendations on how to avoid them in the future projects. So we have implemented that in our processes, and hopefully this will result in our projects getting completed on time. So our challenge is in the time overrun rather than the cost overrun.
And the second part was, that fund which you have allocated for under one of the heads, can it be combined with the semiconductor?
So, see, our fund is not restricted to any given area. If we find the project suitable, we fund it. So it can be in semiconductors, it can be in artificial intelligence, it can be in quantum. But we coordinate with the national missions which are being launched. So we have a close coordination so that already a project is funded from those missions, then we don't fund it.
Final question from the lady there, and how is the DAP addressing?
DPM, she said. DPM is not relevant. DPM is for procurement. We have a separate procedure in DRDO for funding. So DPM is not relevant to DRDO. We have our own mechanism in DRDO.
Okay, thank you. So if we can now turn to the chief for the balance 2 questions, please.
As far as the CAPF is concerned, CAPF has got a task of the border management, which also includes the border guarding. As for the military is concerned, it is the task of the border protection as and when required. So what we need to understand that the requirements are different in terms of training, equipping. But where we can, I think, converge together in terms of when we have the operational situation of the conventional warfare, even heightened gray zone. In these two situations, what is we are looking at? In phase 1, as of now, which we already worked, is basically how we can integrate the logistics. So step 1 is we are looking at the ammunition, because the ammunition, instead of drawing it from CAD Pulgaon, if it can be drawn from the nearest ammunition depot, and only the paper transaction can take place. We already offered this to the Home Secretary, and we are looking forward. That is already gone. Medical, we're already looking at it. Small arms ammunition, as far as even the repairs of the small arms. This is even the big, whatever equipment is there, we are ready to even repair that. That offer has already been given. As we talk, the MA2 NSA is, I think, today meeting the Home Secretary along with the Army officers to discuss on the drone commonalities, because we have got classified 5 kinds of drones which we are looking at. And those 5 kinds of drones, what we are looking at, even the MAJ should look into. We are looking at a range, what they should have and what qualities they should have, so that there is a kind of a clear-cut degree of variation in operational space also for the two. As for the phase 3 is concerned, what we'll be looking at basically the equipment compatibility. So any equipment which is being bought hereafter will have the commonality. So the GSQR what we have is already being regularly shared with all the DGs in any case, but will also be shared with now the, if I can say that the Home Secretary and the associated office there also. So overall, what we are having that all the training which is there, we are doing it together. All the war games is there, and we have General Marva sitting here from 2 day when he was there. So that time we started the ITBP used to attend all the war games which army was conducting. So the operational commonality, the training commonality, the logistics commonality, the procurement commonality, everywhere we can do that. The thing is, the people keep changing. So the 70% of the work will be done if you know each other well, if you trust each other well. So if we don't look at turf protection, we'll be able to move much faster. The second issue is what has been talked about is the modernization of Indian Army and global power. I remember the External Affairs Minister when he, in the month of October last year, addressed all the army commanders. He said that the army needs to work more on the military diplomacy. And this is something which is the takeoff for the global power, if I can say that, because army has lot to give. If you have a huge demand of the military equipment, I can assure you if it's part of the Atmanirbharta, you will have a huge demand outside also, because the Indian army standards are so high, then even the Swiss knife couldn't pass once upon a time. I remember that.
I will vouch for that.
So once we give this stamp of approval, all the countries the world over say, okay, we are ready to take it. So export promotion is something we can play an important role. And this is what the kind of one of the task has already been given to our defense advisors. The equipment, of course, we have talked about it. Human resource, the training, the best of establishments what we have here. And scoping delegations are coming from all the countries to visit us, and thereafter say, okay, we want so many vacancies. And we have through ITEC also, we have the self-financing facilities also. And to the extent that we have gone, I have visited one of the countries and they've asked few requirements. I said, we will make the tailor-made course for it. Because Indian Army today has the flexibility to kind of make those kind of courses and give it, including exposure in our extreme terrains. India is the only country, we have maritime, we have deserts, we have super high altitude, we have jungle terrain, mountain, name a terrain, we have it. So that way, all countries are wanting to come and kind of learn from us, and we in turn also will learn. It's not that we don't learn. We both countries learn with each other. Joint operations in United Nations, as you see, that we are always within the first 5 as far as the troop contributing countries are concerned. This time 32 countries chiefs had come. It was a surprise to us also. We never expected this kind of a prompt response. It's because the kind of impressions Indian troops have left the world over. So that is again, we are looking at soft power. We are well aware of it. Then we are also looking at subject matter experts. Subject matter experts is something that a new subject, for example, AI. I'll just give you example. Tajikistan, our youngsters went there. They went for a kind of setting up a small team there, a cyber team. And the kind of a software which they have created is talk of the town in Tajikistan. It's being talked about their defense minister also. So the talent which is there in India may look very small to us, but when they go all out, they understand the local requirement, they can actually do a lot. And military diplomacy as a whole is actually playing a very important role. And the way I have given you out, we also know that we are the second largest army and fourth powerful army. So this itself aligns in the thought process of Viksit Bharat 2047. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. With reference to your question, this gentleman from Doordarshan, I am not for a moment suggesting that you need to obsess with China, but there is no harm at looking what they are doing. If you see, they have put down 2 clear-cut timelines in their plans for modernization. PLA modernization by 2027, PLA world-class military by 2049. In that sense, if you hear the initiatives that the chief has just covered, I think we would be moving much faster because our approach is much more comprehensive in that sense. Yes, please, next round.
Thank you, General Saha. My name is Nalin Kohli. I represent a MSME association. Sir, I have 2 very quick questions, one for the chief and one for Dr. Kamat. So for the chief, there's a fairly good ecosystem for MSMEs and startups who are working in the defense area. Many of us don't take money under any program like IDEX or TDF, but we are working in a defense domain. And what we expect is the handholding that you give, particularly innovation develops when we talk to the actual user, who would be maybe a lieutenant colonel or a major, who actually knows that issue much better. So, sir, this, if it can be facilitated. For Dr. Kamat, sir, we have talked to DRDO, your officials. Many times the technology transfer, the threshold, that money that you are asking is so high that many MSMEs and startups who are interested are not able to do it. So we would request that get on to a reasonable royalty model if there is a startup or a MSME who wants to work with DRDO. And that could be a better thing because they don't have money upfront to spend there.
Thank you, Mr. Nalin. Yes. Yeah, Narang, please.
So my first question is to Secretary R&D. Sir, our major problem is the quantification of indigenous content based on materials, software, and components as per the new policy. So how do we address the standard formulation, identification of these based on scientific identification of these and certification? That's point one. And second is about spiral development and project closures. And this question is to both Chief also. How do DRDO and the services can work together to reduce the project closures or inactions or delays? Thank you.
Thank you, Narang. There's a lady there at the, yes, please.
This is Parvinder Sandhu. I am from the UNI. My question is to the Chief of Staff, Army Staff. Sir, in your address today, you called Ukraine warfare a living laboratory. So my question to you is specifically for the Indian Army, what tactical and technological lessons have been imbibed from that warfare? And also the other part of the question is, all the chiefs have been talking about the lessons that have been learned from Op Sindoor 1.0, and they have, continuously talked about implementing the same. So one lesson from that has been imbibed, and of course from the Ukraine war also. Thank you.
Sandhu, yeah, next, please. Yeah, Pranay.
Pranay from Takshashila Institution, Bengaluru. Dr. Kamat, I just wanted to ask you about, you mentioned opening up of IP to private players is happening. Could you please detail that specifically on the semiconductor side? For example, GATEC, is it opening up its process design kits for, let's say, Indian startups who want to make something on gallium nitride, etc.? Thank you.
Okay, I think this time we'll request the chief to go first. The first one was on hand-holding and facilitation from Mr. Naren Kohli, and then was...
As far as MSME is concerned, it is a cause of concern and cause of interest to us. We feel that growth of MSME will help the military as well as the large-scale industries. So it is protected also under the DAP, as you are aware, that a particular amount, if it is below than that, then the MSME are the first ones who have to be given, or a particular percentage has to be given. When it comes to how the performance has been, I must say that it's also been a cause of concern, because the commitment has been given, but because of the local conditions, lack of capital, and so on and so forth, it's not been 100% satisfaction. But the satisfaction level has been high. Now, after this Triple C, what has happened, and we have discussed amongst ourselves and also with the polity, we will be sending the military representatives, especially from the central headquarters, to go to MSMEs, kind of advise them and kind of educate them what is the requirement, what is the capital, which will allow them to kind of participate in the military contracts which are there. The second issue which has been said about the hand holding, when you talk about the innovation which have been carried out or the trials which have been carried out. What happens when we look at the local level? For him, it's okay. I have been visiting so many exhibitions. Everybody says, sir, I made this, I made this. But suddenly my director, ADG, ADB comes to me, sir, this has also been made by Bell, sir, this has also been made by so-and-so, this has also been made by... So when you look at in isolation, you have actually achieved something big. But when you look at India as an ecosystem, this has also been developed by 3, 4. And we have to provide them a playing field. That is where the constraints come. But the hand holding is something which is our responsibility. And given the funds which are allocated to us and given the funds which are available to the DRDO, we both are committed to kind of do the handholding, for which the startups and the MSMEs take a priority. The second issue is project delay, how you handle. Of course, we both will answer that later. As far as the living lab is concerned, what has been talked about, I can say that tactical and technological lessons both combined together. What is coming out, the battle of narratives is actually making you win the war. And if the battle of narrative is, let's say, if the Western world and Russia is getting isolated, it does not mean that Russia is not winning war or Ukraine is not winning war. So you are not always getting the correct picture. Therefore, battle of narrative or the cyber war is something which is important, which we need to look into. The second is duration of war, which I have said earlier also. It is 4 days, 4 months, or 4 years, we don't know. So what does it involve? It involves basically that Atmanirbharta and capability to produce, and also kind of a capability to export is something important. And what we have realized majorly that earlier we used to say, okay, just in time, just in place, and only optimize resource. Gone are those days. We must have surplus. Even if it leads to wastage, I'm not saying it should get wastage. Therefore, whatever resource can be of dual use, that is something which should be given primary importance. That I have been talking about Google approach and Apple approach is whatever is available on the courts, immediately pick up and use it for the military purpose. Because then I know I can sustain it for a longer period and the market is ready to give it. As far as the drone operation is concerned, it's come out very clearly. It is a operational enhancer, not a match winner or a war winner. So that has come out. And of course, the combined teams, which we talked about, Rudra has already been made, others been made. This has also been looked from that point of view. Sindoor 1.0, what has come out, the major lesson is multi-domain operations and whole of nation approach. It is not the three subsets which will fight the battle together. It is the whole of nation which will fight the battle together. Rest all it is in a kind of a classified domain, but all the agencies of various kinds, whether it is civil agency or intelligence agencies or us and the diaspora, everybody fought this battle together. I can just say that. Thank you.
Yeah, so let me start with the money for the TOT. See, we have a formula which has been decided by our finance that 20% of now it's reduced to 5% of the project cost for that development of that technology. That is charged as the TOT fee, initial fee. And now we have scrapped the royalty also, because eventually that product is sold to our military. So unless it's a dual use technology which can be used for civilian applications, there is no royalty. We have also added a mechanism where the company can pay for the TOT only, they have to initially pay only 10% of the TOT cost, and the rest can be paid only when they get an order. So we have simplified our norms to make it easier for the industry. When it comes to quantification of the indigenous content, it is not a very easy task. Unless the company is very honest and gives you a clear bill of materials, this is very contentious. So all these schemes like buy IDDM and all these other things, make IDDM, all these suffer from, some companies are honest, some companies give wrong numbers. I don't know what is the correct solution, but it has to be curbed, because this then results in distortion of the intent of the government. When it comes to spiral development, it's a very good question, because anybody who has done design and development will know that you can reach 90% relatively quickly. The final 10% of the QR is challenging to meet, and that is where most of the delays happen. So if you have a mechanism of, in the DAC, I don't blame the services, because today's mechanism doesn't allow them to start the procurement until the entire PSQR is met. But we need a mechanism where 20% of their total needs are acquired when the QR, 80 or 90% of the QR summit. So then the cash flow for the industry which is working on that system will also start. He can then sustain his development. This reform is a must if we have to get more systems inducted. Then with respect to opening of our IPs, these IPs are free now. You can take the IPs. If the IP belongs to the laboratory SSPL, because most of the IP in GETEC is from SSPL. If the IP belongs to SSPL, it is free. But if the IP belongs to GETEC, because it is a society, it has to earn its own money, it will not be free. Because GETEC has to earn its own money. So if that IP has been generated by GETEC, they will charge for it.
Thank you very much, both the Army Chief and Dr. Kamath for, I think, you will all agree with me, a very impactful talk by both the eminent leaders, and I think a very free, frank, and forthright question and answers that we've had. So I would request you all to please join me in a round of applause and get a standing ovation for the two speakers.